الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تبارك وتعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى، وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. نسأل الله العزيز الغفار أن يجيرنا وإياكم من عذاب النار. والحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام وكفى بها نعمة. We praise Allah, we thank Him for the ni'mah of Islam, and if it was the only ni'mah that Allah Ta'ala bestowed upon us, by Allah it will be sufficient. We ask Allah Ta'ala to keep this ni'mah upon us and never to deprive us of it until the end of our days. And we ask Allah Ta'ala that if He were to take us, take our soul, to only take it on Islam and on the Shahada of La ilaha illallah. Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. Inshallah, I would like to go back to a series that we started a little bit a few weeks before I got sick. This is the series of البدعة. We didn't get a chance to finish it all the way. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for both of us, inshallah ta'ala. As you know, al-fiqh, the things of fiqh are a little bit heavy on the nafs, because people mostly they like things that have to do with stories and raqa'iq and things like that. But nevertheless, the fiqh is also very important for us, inshallah ta'ala. Now, if you remember, I gave the definition of the bid'ah. Now, briefly go through some of the things that we said before, just to refresh our mind. الابتداع, bid'ah comes from بدع يبدع أو يبتدع, and it means وهو يعني أن تصنع الشيء أو تخلقه عن غير مثال سابق، يعني من دون مثال سابق. That is, you create something without a previous example or a previous blueprint. You create something from nothing without a previous example. That's what if you remember, we mentioned Allah Azza wa Jal talking about Himself. قال سبحانه وتعالى بديع السماوات والأرض. بديع السماوات والأرض خالقها من غير مثال سابق. بديع السماوات والأرض means that He created the heavens and the earth without a previous example. There was nothing before He subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth. وقوله تعالى في سورة الأحقاف قل ما كنت بدعا من الرسل. ما كنت بدعا من الرسل. Allah Ta'ala tells Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell your people that I'm not a bid'ah when it comes to prophethood, meaning that there were other prophets and messengers that came before me. This is not something new. It's not something that I created. Prophethood and messengership is not something that I created, but rather it is something that was there before me. And there was a lot of of definitions, many definitions that the scholars gave when it comes to the technical meaning of the term or the idiomatic meaning of the term. الاصطلاح تعرف كثير من العلماء البدعة بتعاريف كثيرة، منها الإمام الشاطبي رحمه الله تعالى قال: طريقة في الدين مخترعة تضاهي الشريعة يقصد بالسلوك عليها المبالغة في التعبد لله سبحانه وتعالى. So this is, he said, طريقة, a way in the deen of Allah that is created, that is innovated, and it's something that wants to go neck and neck and be similar, be equal to the deen of Allah Ta'ala, the deen that Allah Ta'ala created. And what is the reason for it? The reason people do it because they want to exaggerate. They want to exaggerate in the worship of Allah Ta'ala. And as you know, we are a middle course ummah, and we do not exaggerate in any way, shape. We're not extreme. We don't turn our backs on the worship of Allah, and we don't go overboard in worshiping Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I mean by that, in ways that He hasn't decreed subhanahu wa ta'ala, in ways that His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not show us. We are a middle course. ذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. Verily, we made you a middle course ummah, so that you will make witnesses on the people, and so that the messenger will be a witness for you or against you. And subhanAllah, this particular witnessing that Allah Ta'ala talks about in the Quran will take place in the Akhirah. It will take place on the Day of Judgment. And who can tell me the incident? يعني كيف سنكون شهداء على الناس؟ هل سيقع ذلك في يوم القيامة؟ تفضل يا أبا.
نعرف اللي سبقونا من خلال القرآن.
نعم.
أما الرسول يكون علينا.
نعم. من القوم الذين سنشهد لهم؟ نعم. هو هذه الأمر. This will happen with the people of Nuh. Yes, عليه السلام. قوم نوح. Exactly. The people of Nuh will be brought forth, and Allah Ta'ala will ask them, did Nuh deliver the message? هل بلغ نوح الرسالة؟ قالوا لا. ما جاءنا من الرسول وما رأينا من الرسول. They say no, we didn't see anybody. Nobody came and told us anything. 950 years of calling them all down the drain, like it never happened. يؤتى بنوح عليه السلام. Allah Azza wa Jalla calls for Nuh to be brought forward. Ya Nuh, did you deliver the message? Yes, Ya Allah, I delivered the message. Who will be your witnesses? He says Muhammad and his ummah. Muhammad and his ummah. So Muhammad and his ummah, we ask Allah Ta'ala to make all of us from them, inshaAllah Ta'ala, will be brought forth. Ya ummah Muhammad, هل بلغ نوح الرسالة؟ هل بلغ قومه? Oh people of ummah of Muhammad, did Nuh deliver the message? Yes, Ya Allah. So the others, the people of Nuh, will say, well, Ya Allah, this is not fair. How can you make people witness against us? We've never seen them, they've never seen us. كانوا في غير زماننا وغير وقتنا. How is it possible? And Allah Ta'ala is علام الغيوب. He's the one that knows the unseen, and He wants to establish the proof. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good question. How could you possibly be witnesses against these people and you've never seen them? There's a gap of thousands of years between you. يا ربنا لقد قرأنا كتابك وآمنا برسولك ورأينا في كتابك أنك قلت وقولك الحق أن نوحا عليه السلام قد بلغ قومه وبلغ رسالته. Oh Allah, we believe in your prophet, and we believe in your book, and we read in your book that you said, and whatever you said is the truth, that Nuh alayhi salam has delivered the message. And then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ will be witness for all of us, inshallah ta'ala. We ask Allah ta'ala to make us from the believers then. Allah ta'ala said it, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We made you a middle course ummah so that you be witnesses for or against people, and then the messenger will be a witness for or against you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to deprive us of the iman, to make us from the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So obviously the definitions of the bid'ah, there were many. I'm not going to go through them again. We talked extensively before in this series about the meaning and definition. But what we understand from these definitions are a few things. Number one, that al-bid'ah ما فهمناه من التعاريف العلماء أن البدعة تكون في الدين. That the bid'ah, number one, has to do with the deen of Allah, the creed of Islam and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this, like I said before, this responds to the people that whenever you say wallahi, well, this is a bid'ah, people that have a khifah in their deen, they have a lightness in their deen, they like to do whatever they want, and then when they decide to worship Allah, they worship Him with things that are innovative. What do they tell you? What do they tell people that they see with the likeness of the Sunnah? People, especially people that look like me, for example, that always wear a thobe. I always get these things, especially even from family members. If you say everything is a bid'ah, well, then you should not be driving a car, you should not take the airplane, you should not use a cell phone, because all these things are innovations, they're bid'ah. And this is, subhanAllah, a response to that the bid'ah has to do with the deen of Allah Ta'ala. It does not have anything to do with things of the life of this world, as innovating in the things of life of this world is a good thing. It is a good thing that benefits the ummah and benefits the people. Number two, from the things that we derive from the definitions, that البدعة الشيء الثاني أن البدعة ليس لها أصل شرعي يدل عليه. There is nothing in the fundamental of this deen that tells you about that this bid'ah is correct, meaning that there's no proof for it. These people created something and there is no proof for it. Number three, الشيء الثالث أن البدعة كلها مذمومة. That the bid'ah, all of it is bad. There is no good bid'ah and bad bid'ah. Anything that you come up with or someone comes up with in the deen of Allah, in the worship of Allah Ta'ala, it doesn't matter how good it appears, all of it is bad, all of it will be thrown back at the innovator, someone that does it. And we said also that number four is al-bid'ah تكون في الزيادة والنقصان. تكون في الزيادة. Bid'ah can be by adding something to the deen and diminishing, taking away something from the deen. And you remember, who can tell me the proof that I talked about in this particular when I talked about this particular point? البدعة is adding. البدعة ممكن أن تنقص من الدين أو تزيد فيه. فما هو الدليل الذي أتيت به؟ تذكرون؟ What is the proof? Exactly. The proof is that the people that asked about the worship of the Prophet ﷺ, and they said, Wallahi, he is the messenger of Allah, all his sins were forgiven, we have to do more. So one of them said, as for myself, I will fast and not break my fast. The other said, as for myself, I will pray all night, every night, and never sleep. And the third one said, I will not marry, I will not get married. And there's another narration that says, one of them said that I will not eat any meat. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he heard it, he got angry, he got on the minbar, and he said, why is it, why is it that some people, they say such and such and such, I am the one who fears Allah the most. And I am the one that has the most piety, and I'm the one that has the most knowledge when it comes to Allah Ta'ala, and I fast and I break my fast, and I pray at night and I sleep, and I do get married. And whoever فَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Whoever turned his back on my sunnah, he is not from me. And it was even said that, subhanAllah, that some of these people were some of the big Sahaba. And Allah Ta'ala, after that, He revealed from Surah Al-Ma'idah, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لا تحرموا طيبات ما أحل الله لكم ولا تعتدوا إن الله لا يحب المعتدين. Allah Ta'ala revealed in Surah Al-Ma'idah, O you who believe, do not make haram, do not forbid on yourselves wholesome and good and pure طيبات, things that Allah has made permissible for you, and do not oppress. ولا تعتدوا, do not oppress. إن الله لا يحب المعتدين. Allah does not like the oppressors. And Allah Ta'ala called this an oppression. If you make haram on yourself, something that Allah Ta'ala made halal, then you have oppressed yourself. Then you have transgressed against yourself, and the person has to be aware of that. The person has to be careful with that. So obviously, subhanAllah, the difference between the bid'ah as we understand it, that it has to do with the deen of Allah, and the bid'ah, as some people say, it has to do with things of this world, is the difference between the definition in the linguistic definition and the idiomatic or the technical definition. And subhanAllah, you will find these discrepancies or differences between these definitions and other acts of worship, that you will find the difference between. There's a difference between the linguistic meaning, المعنى اللغوي, and the idiomatic or the technical meaning, المعنى الاصطلاحي. هناك فرق بين كأمثلة التقوى والصيام والحج والعمرة والبدعة. هذه الأمور تجد فرقا بين تعريفها اللغوي وتعريفها الاصطلاحي. فمثلا كلمة التقوى في اللغة، من يذكرني التقوى لغة ما هي؟ What is the taqwa? What is the definition of taqwa linguistically? What's that? That's the technical, the idiomatic meaning. The linguistic meaning, تعريف التقوى لغة هو أن تجعل بينك وبين الذي تخشاه، نعم، تجعل بينك وبينه وقاية. نعم، حجاب ووقاية. نعم. مثلا اتخاذ البيوت، يعني في الصحراء اتخاذ الخيام للوقاية من حر الشمس، واتخاذ البيوت للوقاية من المطر. Just like, for example, taking shelters, houses or tents, or to protect yourself from the sun, to protect yourself from the rain. All of these things are the linguistic meanings of at-taqwa. As for the idiomatic, which has to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أن تجعل بينك وبين غضب الله عز وجل وقاية تقيك منه، وذلك بامتثال الأوامر واجتناب النواهي. وعرف بعض الصحابة والتابعين التقوى. قال علي رضي الله عنه، ماذا قال علي؟ تعرفها؟ قال علي رضي الله عنه, some of the Sahaba and Tabi'een, they defined التقوى for us. We will inshallah go through some of them inshallah ta'ala. علي رضي الله, نعم, التقوى هي الخوف من الجليل والعمل بالتنزيل والرضا بالقليل والاستعداد ليوم الرحيل. Of course, Ali radiallahu anhu made it beautiful, made it rhyme. Of course, when you translate it to English, it doesn't sound as good. So the khawf min al-jaleel, that the fear from Allah, al-jaleel, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that has majesty. Wal-amal bi-tanzeel, and then you implement that which was revealed. You implement the revelation of Allah ta'ala. Wal-rida bil-qaleel, to be satisfied with that which is little. Meaning that not to be greedy, to be satisfied with the small things in this life. وَالْإِسْتِعْدَادُ لِيَوْمِ الرَّحِيلِ, and then to get yourself ready for the day of departure. He made it, wallah, he put it very beautifully and very simply, that you fear Allah Ta'ala you implement the revelation, you are satisfied with the little things in the life of this world, and you get yourself ready to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, في قوله تعالى اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون قال أن يطاع فلا يعصى ويذكر فلا ينسى وأن يشكر فلا يكفر. Ibn Mas'ud in explaining what Allah Ta'ala revealed, Surah Al-Imran, واتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون, that have real piety for Allah and do not die except on the state of Islam. He said that Allah should be obeyed and never disobeyed, and He should be remembered and never forgotten, and He should be thanked, and then we should never be ungrateful to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. That the ulama, from them al-Qurtubi and others, they said that you should remain and hold fast to your Islam until the last breath, until the end of your life. You hold on to your Islam. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. طلق بن حبيب رحمه الله قال التقوى أن تعمل بطاعة الله على نور من الله ترجو ثواب الله وأن تترك معصية الله على نور من الله تخاف عقاب الله. Wallahi, the words of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, you find sometimes that they're so close to the words of the prophets and messengers. يعني قريب من كلام الأنبياء، قريب بعد الصحابة والأنبياء عليه نور ترى فيه قربا من كلام الأنبياء عليهم السلام أجمعين. Ibn Habib said that the taqwa is to work within the obedience of Allah Ta'ala with a light from Allah, and being guided by the light of Allah, hoping for the reward of Allah, and to leave the disobedience of Allah, to leave the sins and the transgressions. Same thing, ala nur min Allah, is being led by the light of Allah Ta'ala. Why? Because you're fearing the punishment of Allah. And subhanAllah, there are so many of these beautiful definitions of the taqwa. I'll mention one more. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma قال المتقون الذين يحذرون من الله عقوبته في ترك ما يعرفون من الهدي ما يعرفون من الهدي ويرجون رحمته في التصديق بما جاء به. Ibn Abbas and Muttaqun, the real pious, they are afraid, they are aware of the uqubah, the punishment of Allah Ta'ala, even in leaving off some of the things that can even be permissible for them, because they believe in what Allah Ta'ala has in store for them. And I'll give you an example. And I talked about this and this if someone who is ordinary, a commoner, does it, we might say, well, he's going overboard, this will be tanattur. And I think I mentioned this example before. Somebody, for example, walks into this village and he overheard that a cow was stolen. Someone stole a cow in that village. Okay? Well, that person, what he does, he will refrain from eating beef at all for as long as he's in that village, until he leaves. Why? Exactly. He's afraid that the stolen meat will enter his stomach. This is, subhanAllah, al-wara'. This is al-wara', something that, subhanAllah, that's beyond at-taqwa. So many wonderful examples of how the Sahaba and the Tabi'een understood the taqwa, understood the piety and implemented it. Now other words that you will find a gap and a difference between the linguistic and the idiomatic meanings. مصطلحات أخرى، كلمات أخرى تجد فيها فرقا بين المعنى اللغوي والمعنى الاصطلاحي. مثلا الصيام، صيام في اللغة هو الإمساك. وما هو الدليل؟ الإمساك. What is the dalil? Al-imsak is to refrain, to stay away from something, to keep away from something. What is our dalil? نعم في سورة مريم إما ترين من البشر أحدا فقولي إني نذرت للرحمن صوما فلن أكلم اليوم إنسيا. That in Surah Maryam, Allah Azza wa Jal said, talking about Maryam, Allah told her that if you see from the humans, anybody from the sons of Adam, and say that I have vowed a fast for the beneficent, therefore that I will fast for the sake of Ar-Rahman, and I will not talk to anybody today. And her fasting is not to refrain from food and water, but it is to refrain from talking. So it is an imsak. And that is why, subhanAllah, Allah Ta'ala used the word siyam in its full meaning when it comes to Ramadan, because in Ramadan we don't refrain just from food and water, but we refrain from a lot of things. We refrain from halal things. We refrain from halal things. In Babi Awla, it is more fitting that we refrain from haram, things like backbiting and slandering and conning and cheating and stealing, things like that subhanAllah are not permissible in regular days, but they're even more forbidden in Ramadan. We'll talk about this inshallah down the road in maybe a khutbah of Jumu'ah inshallah ta'ala. كلمة الحج، ما هو المعنى اللغوي لكلمة الحج؟ يلا يا سيبويه يا سيبويه العرب، سيبويه الفلوجة. الحج، what is الحج linguistically؟
ما معنى الحج يعني؟
نعم معنى الحج، معنى الحج. والله ما شاء الله عليك. ما شاء الله. الحج لغة هو القصد. يعني الحج linguistically is to take a direction somewhere. القصد. For example, أنا قصدت المكان الفلاني. I take in the direction of this place. That's what Hajj means. But idiomatically, technically, اصطلاحا هو أداء المناسك. الحج قصد مكة، يعني لأداء الفريضة أو أداء الركن الخامس من ديننا. But of course, idiomatically is the Hajj that we know, the pilgrimage to go to Mecca to perform the rituals. العمرة، كلمة العمرة، ما معنى العمرة؟ الاعتمار، ما شاء الله، والتعمر والاستعمار. زينا كمان. ما شاء الله. The Umrah has a linguistic meaning as well. هي الزيارة. العمرة means to visit, to pay a visit, to visit a place. That is the Umrah. And of course, in اصطلاحا idiomatically, it means the Umrah as we know it. And of course, البدعة, as we said, to take a buffer between you and that which you fear. And of course, اصطلاحا idiomatically, it is to take a protection between the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fall in it. There's a beautiful, just one more definition that I would like to find for you. I can't find it, subhanAllah. It's one of the Sahaba. It's so well said. He said that someone asked him about taqwa. He said, tell me if you're barefoot and you go on a road and you find all of a sudden you find cactus or you find, like choke, pricks everywhere. What would you be doing? I'll be doing taqwa. I'll be doing tiptoeing, going around them, so that so I don't get, subhanAllah, pricked by one. And subhanAllah, of course, so much wisdom in the way that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum used to, and the Tabi'een and the ulama used to define things. Now you remember I talked also about the people that will be deprived from al-hawd, from the lake of the Prophet ﷺ because of البدعة. حديث البخاري عن أنس رضي الله عنه قال بينما أنا أسير في الجنة إذا بنهر حافتاه قباب الدر المجوف. So without going into details of this hadith, that there are so many, the Prophet ﷺ described the beauty of al-hawd. And this hawd, as I said, after a person makes it from a sirat, and he goes through the qantara, the bridge in which people hold each other accountable for the things that they did to each other, for the transgression against each other, for the oppression against each other. The ones that make it from that and don't fall in Jahannam after having come to Allah and been on that bridge with millions of hasanat, with mountains of hasanat, the ones that make it through this, they will go to al-hawd. Now imagine a group of people, they will make it from al-mizan, their hasanat are heavier than the sayyat. They go through the sirat is good, they cross the sirat. They get to al-qantara, they have oppressed anyone. SubhanAllah, everyone that is called for, they don't lose any hasanat, they have their hasanats intact. They get to the door, the gate of Al-Jannah. They see the Jannah in front of them, the hawd is right there, Al-Jannah is right there. They think they're home free. All is needed now is for them to drink. The Prophet ﷺ gave them from the hawd to drink, and that will clean them. The hawd will clean a person. He will get rid of a few things. For example, the hunger and thirst. If you drink from al-hawd, you will never feel hunger or thirst ever again. And when you enter Al-Jannah, you eat and drink out of pleasure, not out of necessity. And then also drinking from al-hawd will get rid of all the negative traits of character that a person could have. Envy, jealousy, anything else, all of that will be removed from a person. You will enter with the character of al-malaika. You will enter Al-Jannah as a human being, but subhanAllah, you will have the character of the angels. Otherwise, ya ikhwan, the life in Jannah will not be as good. Life in Jannah will not be as perfect. Imagine you have envy and jealousy and all of that. You enter, you're in the Daraja 375, and you see the people that are in the, subhanAllah, the higher ones, and you're thinking, wow, they have more than me. Why are they better than me? I can't bear it, I can't handle it. And subhanAllah, exactly, I want to go up there, and it's ill feelings will start, and there are no ill feelings. There are no negative feelings in Al-Jannah. There's only positive. Even, subhanAllah, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned many times, and Allah Ta'ala also mentioned in the Quran, that the believer will have not just one from the maiden of Al-Jannah, but he might have many, and there will be no jealousy between them. There will be nothing but love and subhanAllah and harmony. There will never be any jealousy. Otherwise, subhanAllah, what will be the difference between being in the life of this world and being in Jannah? There will be no difference. So there are no ill feelings. That's what Hawd al-Kawthar does for you. He will clean you from inside. You will have nothing negative. Now, so a group of people after having made it from al-Mizan and al-Sirat and al-Qantara, and they are right there. Wallahi, this is subhanAllah, just like someone hands it to you and he just takes it right back. It's so difficult. Might as well not hand it from the beginning. It is something so difficult on the nafs. Na'udhu billahi min as-salbi bal al-ata. You feel like you're right there. But some people, a group of people, they were coming to al-hawd. They want to get a drink from the Prophet ﷺ so they can enter al-Jannah, and the malaika will start pushing them back. Pushing them back, pushing them back. The Prophet ﷺ will see them and recognize them and say, Ya ummati, these are people from my ummah, this is my ummah. And he wants to intercede for them. So Allah Ta'ala tells him, Ya Muhammad, la taf'al. Oh Muhammad, don't do it. Don't intercede for them. You have no idea what they did after you. إنك لا تدري ما أحدثوا من بعدك. You have no idea what they did after you. They have turned their backs on your sunnah. They have changed your sunnah. فماذا قال صلى الله عليه وسلم فأقول سحقا سحقا لمن بدل وغير. سحقا means doom. May they be doomed. Prophet ﷺ will say, may they be doomed. These are people from the Muslims, but subhanAllah, instead of following the sunnah of Muhammad ﷺ and have it be sufficient for them, they looked for other ways. They thought they could get clever, that they could create things in the deen of Allah Ta'ala and worship Allah with them. And that was the reason for their doom and their demise. That was the reason for the Prophet ﷺ declaring his innocence from them. Wallahi, and this is wallahi the worst thing, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, that you see that he's the source of your salvation on that day, that if he intercedes for you, Allah Ta'ala will be merciful with you, and he turns his back on you, and he declares his innocence of you, just because you felt like you were clever, you felt like you wanted to do something different, and subhanAllah, and worship Allah with that thing. We have to understand. We have to understand. And inshallah, I'll leave you with this one, inshallah, not to make it too long. If a person looks at an innovation or comes up with something and he sees it as something good, he has done two things that are horrible. Number one, he has said that Allah has lied. Didn't Allah say, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمْ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا? Didn't Allah say that this day, I have, exactly, أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينًا, I have completed your religion for you and perfected your religion for you, completed my favor upon you, and I have created for you and chosen for you Islam as your way of life. So whoever comes up with something new, he has claimed that Allah Ta'ala has lied. This is one. Number two, person that comes with innovation, he is accusing the Messenger of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, of what? Of betraying his risala. Exactly. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that has said, there is nothing that gets you close to Al-Jannah and away from Jahannam, except that I told you to do. And there is nothing that gets you farther away from Jahannam and closer to Al-Jannah, farther away from Al-Jannah and closer to Jahannam, except that I forbade you from doing. He clearly said that. So if you say, you come up with an act of worship and you say it's good, and the Messenger of Allah did not do it, then subhanAllah, you are claiming that the Messenger of Allah has cheated and has betrayed his trust, has betrayed his risala, his message, and did not deliver the message complete. And you or other people had to, bring some new things to mend the shortcomings of the risala of the Prophet ﷺ. Do we see the danger here? Wallahi, it's dangerous. That's why the Messenger of Allah ﷺ will declare his innocence from his people. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the ones that follow his sunnah truly. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the ones that stay away from al-Bid'ah. And especially now we are in the month of Rajab. It's a time for us to buckle up, time for us to get ourselves ready for Sha'ban and Ramadan. And subhanAllah, we do so while following the footsteps of Muhammad ﷺ and not following our vain desires or following the innovations of any innovators, if you want to be on the safe side. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the ones that when they hear the speech, they follow the best of it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والحمد لله رب العالمين وجزاكم الله خيرا. Inshallah, next Wednesday, Allah Ta'ala allows us to live and to be here, to come here, inshallah Ta'ala. We'll talk a little bit more about the bid'ah, and I will mention a little bit, we'll talk a little bit about the bid'ah of al-Qadariyya, the bid'ah of al-Khawarij, inshallah Ta'ala. So be with us, inshallah Ta'ala, and tell others, الدل على الخير كفاعل. We want more people to participate so that more people will learn their deen, inshallah Ta'ala. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Of course.
There have been oppressors that said, okay, I want you to do it because they restored you, but in oppressors that they just was very careful.
Exactly. That's called al-wara'. Al-wara' is a exactly. It's a high degree that requires some conditions. You have to have some conditions to be able to be a person of wara'. And certainly the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the people in the first 3 centuries that the Prophet ﷺ has praised, they had that. They had al-wara'. They will stay away. If it has could possibly have a gray area, they will stay away from it. No, it's not a person substance. This one is not. Because the difference between that person that not eat from the cow in that village, any beef in that village, and the Sahaba that said, we're not gonna get married. This person, he can do without beef in that village, and he's there temporarily. He will leave. But these Sahaba, what they did, it was something that has to do with their whole life. It has to do with their whole life. And these are natural things that Allah Ta'ala made halal for us to do, and they were going to change them. That's why the Prophet ﷺ was so strong when he addressed them. But subhanAllah, this person it's a temporary thing. I can do without it. I can eat other things. Exactly. It's a temporary thing I can do without it, just to be on the safe side. Allah Ta'ala knows this. Jazakallah khair. Barakallahu fiik. What's that? Exactly. Exactly. It's a good point that he brought, so that we can make a difference between both incidents and their significance. You know, they don't have the same significance. The incident of the Sahaba and the incident of this person, they're completely different. Yeah. Risk Allah Ta'ala.